Hello, this is Mr. Ho, and I'm doing a review for Chapter 1 for the Introduction to the Human Body and Anatomy Honors and Anatomy Physiology. Follow along with this PowerPoint, and you should do very well on your exam. So, anatomy is basically the study of the human body in terms of structure. So, when you hear the word anatomy, you're thinking structure. It's what you see, what you can feel, touch, and just have in front of you. Okay? It's the study of the internal and the external structures that make up the human body. However, there's a difference when you go to the next slide. The term physiology is basically the study of functions and how things actually work inside the human body. We're talking about cells and so forth. So that's the difference. The difference between anatomy and physiology: anatomy is structure and physiology is function. Okay? There's different types of anatomies. You have gross anatomy, which is the actual study of the human body from the outside overall. Microscopic anatomy would be someone such as a pathologist or a cell biologist who's studying the insides of the body, like cell staining, different causes of cancer, and so forth. That would be microscopic anatomy. Surface anatomy, regional anatomy, and systemic anatomy all deal with certain areas of the body that you would focus in on individually. Developmental anatomy is important. This is the study of anatomy that you will be studying how the human forms from embryo to childhood to adulthood. So anatomy that is called developmental is the one in which, let's say, a pediatrician would study. You know, you would go from being a baby to an adult, and basically it's seeing how you develop throughout your lifetime. So that's developmental anatomy. When you talk about the different structures or different types of physiology, one comes to mind. Cytology is the study of cells. Anything that ends in the ology, the ending suffix, it means the study of, just like biology is the study of life. So cytology is basically going to be studying the basic cell structure. Histology is study of bone structure at the cellular level. Cell physiology, special physiology, systemic, and those three are basically studying different levels of the organ system. Pathological physiology, or pathological, in this case, you're going to be studying what causes diseases. So an example of someone who is a pathological anatomy or physiologist would be someone like a pathologist, someone who studies diseases. Okay? So that's what pathological means. It means the study of diseases and how it forms in the human body. When we talk about the chemical life, we are talking about how the levels of organization begins. So the first thing you have is an atom. Everything around you starts with an atom. It's not alive, but it's the subatomic particle that is the smallest non-living factor. From atoms, they bounce, and through covalent bonds, they create molecules. Molecules are then able to create the third layer, which is probably the most important, which is the cell. When the cell forms, you now have life. The cell is the first sign of life. It is physiologically the smallest living life form. After that, you will go to the tissue form. Tissues grow up and they develop into organs. Organs grow into the actual organ system or the organism, which is us in this case, the human being. All right? And going on, some of the slides that you'll see here will deal with different body parts. There are actually 11 human body systems that we're going to study. But technically, you can say 12 because you can count the male and the female as 2. All right, let's talk about homeostasis. Homeostasis is basically the state where the entire body has to maintain equilibrium, internally and externally. It's the way your brain functions with your heart, with your respiratory system, with your endocrine, your lungs, every organ together in a very happy place. That is what homeostasis is. There's a form of that which regulates. It's called autoregulation, and it's called extrinsic regulation. Autoregulation basically is when you have a response where a cell or tissue or an organ has a response to the environment, and it does not include the nervous or the endocrine system. Whereas extrinsic regulation is going to be completely controlled by the nervous and endocrine systems. So that's the main difference there. you have two very important feedback systems. You have negative feedback and positive feedback. Negative feedback is basically a system that will reject the initial stimulus and it will return the body to a homeostatic level. In other words, if something bad happens, your body rejects the bad stimulus, tries to make everything perfect again. An example of that would be you're running outside. It's very hot, so your body sweats, and the sweating allows your skin to cool off. So that is an example of negative feedback. Another way that happens is if you come to class late and the teacher realizes you're late to class, your teacher's going to give you a demerit because you're late, and giving you that demerit will stop that behavior, hopefully, and you come to class on time. That is another example of negative feedback. When we're talking about sweating also, keep in mind, inside the brain, there is a place called the hypothalamus, and that is what regulates your body's temperature. Your body's normal temperature is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. When you go to the opposite of feedback, you have positive feedback. Positive feedback is the opposite. It's very rare. And what happens here is, instead of rejecting the initial stimulus, it's going to allow it to happen over and over and over until it stops itself. Examples include bleeding. When you bleed out of your nose, or if you cut yourself, you're going to bleed until you form a scab. Another reason for people getting a fever when they're cold is because your body is trying to kill the bacteria or the germs inside a cold. So a fever produces temperatures that are very high, and you can go up to 100 degrees and past that until one day your fever breaks, which means you stop the sickness, and basically your body has destroyed the bacteria by heating it up and killing it at the smallest tissue level. Another example is an allergy. If you know someone has an allergic reaction to peanuts or wasp or bee stings or anything that causes allergies, they usually have to be introduced with an EpiPen. An EpiPen addresses the state of shock by causing even more adrenaline. So someone who's having, a shock in terms of almost a heart attack or breathing problems, they're really stressed out. But when you stab them with this EpiPen, it's got medicine in there, which just has pure adrenaline, causes it to get worse and worse until, boom, it stops itself. So in this case, an overload of excitement is what ends it, and that's positive feedback. Now we're going to talk about the human body systems. The majority of your tests will come from all 11, or in this case 12, including male and female, reproductive systems. The very first system that we are going to talk about is the integumentary system. When you hear the word integument, we're talking skin. So we're talking skin, hair, nails, and sweat glands. The purpose of this system is to protect you from outside environmental hazards. It helps to regulate body temperature as well and provides a form of sensation. So that's the integumentary system. The skeletal system is comprised of bones. How many bones are in the human body? 206. Remember that. Of the 206 bones, they all function to do several things. Provide structure and support, protection. The rib cage protects your heart and your lungs, for example. Stores calcium and other nutrients. But the most important thing, other than giving you structure, bones have bone marrow. Bone marrow produces blood cells. That's very important. When people have cancer, they like to find someone who matches, and they can replace their bone marrow with theirs and hope that they get healthy and the immune system accepts it. Some of the major organs of the bones, like we said, are 206 of them. You can talk about your skull, your rib cage, your femur, which is your thigh. Also, it includes not just the hard stuff, but soft tissues like cartilage, ligaments. Ligaments connect bone to bone. That's what keeps all the joints together for one part. And associated bone marrow, which is inside of your body. So that's the skeletal system. Next, you have the muscular system, one of the most important organ systems of the body. Without it, you could not physically move. You could not have strength. You could not have body temperature. The skeletal muscles are one of three major muscle tissue types generally overall. But when you say the muscular system, we're talking about, majority of the time, skeletal muscle. And that is roughly 70 to 80% of all muscle in the body. The other two muscle tissues are cardiac, which is your heart tissue, and the third one is your smooth muscle tissues, which are found in your digestive system and other areas of the body that requires more elasticity. Functions of the muscle system, number one, is to provide movement. Strength is another thing. Of course, we need to be able to lift and push open doors with our arms and legs. It also is very important for generating heat. So along with the skin or the integument, your muscles produce heat just as well. Next, you have the nervous system. The nervous system arguably is the most important system of all. It is the brain and the spinal cord and the peripheral nervous tissue. The brain is the master organ of the body, just like the nucleus controls the animal cell. It is responsible for all voluntary and involuntary acts we do. We are able to sleep at night. You can breathe without, having to worry about breathing. You can sleep at night and not have to worry about your heart not pumping. So it's something that automatically allows the body to work. The nervous system is comprised of the brain, the spinal cord, peripheral nervous tissues, and also what's called the sensory organs like eyesight, the speech, hearing, taste, sensations, your five senses. The functions is to direct immediate stimulus to the other organs and to act as a master organ which makes everyone work together. In other words, keep homeostasis alive. It coordinates and moderates all the activities of other organ systems so that we all work together as well.